Hi, and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I am Desiree Holmes Scherini, your host, and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what a soulmate is. Someone asked me that the other day because of the work I do, and even though I don't use that term very much, I'm also going to talk about twin flames. I don't use those terms really because I just don't. But it's not something that I think of as like someone or something has to be identified within a box, I guess is it. But since it was brought up, I thought I would explain what the term means and how you might identify these people that are soulmates or twin flames in your life. So I've talked to you before about the outer realms of our being, that we are, of course, here in physical matter, and a bigger part of us is an energetic being that is not limited to the confines of our body or this reality. And if you haven't caught those previous episodes, there's a bit of recap here that our soul, our personal energy, our who we are as a spiritual being is here in this body, not confined necessarily, but having experience through this body that is here on this earth and experiencing a reality through being human, as well as at the same time, because energy is not necessarily confined inside of a container, but at the same time is always also in the spirit world with source, as you would call it, with God, a universal energy that is not confined. And in that realm, we'll refer to that as being the soul being, just to make life easy, just to make it easy to. So your soul being can express and experience through your humanity, your humanness, but it can and does also exist and experience at a different soul level that we as humans are not always aware of. And in that soul experience, there are other souls that are around or with your soul. And it's said that, and these are things that have come up through evidence, that not physical evidence because it's energy, it's soul beings, but evidence through people that have experienced that realm. And over thousands of people recording events have shared such similar experiences and understandings of the spirit world or this other realm that it's almost impossible to deny, but very difficult to physically prove the way that most people want proof. Similar experiences have happened with people with their near-death experience, and some scientists will, find some reason to say, well, that's just this happening. Others have been swayed, especially when they've had the experience themselves. They've gone from being a not believer to a believer in the spiritual realm and the world of energy and souls and source and God, and a whole different reality than many people believe exists. So in that space, in that place where all is energy, it is said that we have our soul group. There are many, 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 many souls, just like you can imagine there are stars out there, out around us, and even beyond the ones that we can see. And within our whole universe of stars, for example, as a metaphor, there are galaxies. Okay, and then within galaxies, there may be, solar systems. Okay, so if you could picture that metaphor, that all the stars and all of the energy in the universe is definitely connected, that some are more closely connected, like a galaxy, or even more closely connected, in clusters, right? So imagine that you have so many souls, so many energetic beings that are part of the whole, but they may be closer together or grouped together energetically, more closely tied together than some others. And that would be your soul group. And your soul group are often experienced in um, the 3D realities or your incarnations as important people in your life. So in one lifetime, your son, is your son, or in another lifetime, it may be your sister. Okay. Or say you might have your husband in this lifetime might have been your mother in a different lifetime. So whichever happens, a lot of times that these souls will reincarnate with you in a significant way in your life. And the idea of what is a soul contract? Well, there's two different ways of looking at it. There is the idea of having a soul contract between you and one of your, what you might call soulmates, someone who's very close in your soul group. And before incarnation, you, in the out there energetic world, you correspond with each other. You create a plan as souls to help each other have a particular experience in the next lifetime. So as souls, we grow, we mature, and part of the maturation of being a soul is experiencing the denser reality of being incarnate, of being in the flesh and bone and having emotions and experiences. That is part of the soul's growth. And so just like we experience school here on earth and learning from experience, your soul has a learning experience that it grows through over many incarnations and over eons and eons of time as we understand it. Could be the blink of an eye in one realm, millions of years in another. So as souls, you recognize what experiences you need to have or what growth you could experience. And that growth could be learning how to respond or overcome hardship. Or it could be learning how to give love freely. It could be so many different things, right? It could be experiencing being a mother, or it could be experiencing being childless and going without ever having a relationship. Part of these things could be in your soul contract. This soul contract isn't only between you and another soul, it is also your soul contract sort of with yourself or with the higher beings that help guide you in your soul's growth. So when you say you have a soul contract, there's your individual soul contract, and there can also be a contract between souls that incarnating here, you have previously, before this lifetime, chosen some circumstances and some relationships to have. And of course, incarnated, you don't immediately go, oh, I remember when we made this soul contract, and that's why this is going on between us, right? It's the lesson is part of the passage without necessarily understanding. That said, there are tools to help us gain an awareness, like the life between lives hypnosis that I do, or even doing past life hypnosis. We can recognize patterns. Who were these people, our soul mates or our soul family in previous lifetimes with us? What did we decide to do if we use the life between lives hypnosis? It takes you back to that spiritual space before your birth, and you can review what was the plan, why is this happening, which can give a lot of peace and understanding and help you actually move forward as a soul in knowing that this or whatever's happening in your life was part of the process, and to understand it, therefore learn from it. So that's the idea of what a soul contract between you and another soul would be. So bringing that back down from the spiritual realm into our 3D reality right now, how might that be shown to you? Say you have someone that you have a really difficult relationship with, like a family member, someone who's close to you, but it's very hard to get along with them, and they always seem to be challenging you. This soul contract might have been made before now that this is the person to teach you inner peace or negotiating skills, or actual, even more likely to teach you how to love regardless of the other person, how they treat you, how to what's the right word, that unconditional love, how to express love and kindness even in the face of a challenging person, right? So there's an example, as opposed to fighting against it and being negative and not learning from it. And then we could bring in the cycles of karma, that you're here to learn, and as you learn you grow even higher, action and reaction. So if you don't learn the lesson that you are sent here to learn, then the lesson may have to be repeated. And that's sort of like Groundhog Day movie, right? So that's an example of that idea, is repeating until you learn it. So some souls can graduate more quickly on to the next level if they are incarnate aware and realize what's happening and thinking, okay, I'm not going to be an angry person. I'm not going to be a negative person. I'm not going to be greedy or untrustful, or I'm going to learn how to move to the higher level of being. Rather than reacting, I may respond. And so that's one example of how someone who in this lifetime is a real challenge to you may actually be a very close soulmate in reality. And in another incarnation, they may be, your beloved. You may have an opportunity to share a whole different experience, but just as strong. So that's an example of how you as souls can decide what you're going to help each other learn in this lifetime. Another term that comes up is a twin flame. And a lot of people think twin flame means your ideal love, the perfect person, that everything is just, so cohesive and perfect. And that may be. But more than that, a twin flame is that person who has such an impact on your life that you are changed for good. That it could be a teacher, it could be a child, it could be a student, it could be a lover, it could be just a best friend, it could be somebody that, and it doesn't even have to be somebody that's in your life for a long time. It could just be that person who changes the trajectory of your life, and ideally for the better. This is the idea. The twin flame is put in your path to really supercharge your soul's passage upward to a higher level of vibration frequency, to a better existence. So a twin flame is a very intense experience with another person. And it may be sort of a negative thing. It could be something that someone is so intensely negative that you learn quickly to change yourself for the better. It doesn't always mean this is my lover, this is the perfect person. It is someone who influences you so much that your life is just really changed. Not like it kind of sways you or you learned a lesson from them. It's a stronger thing than a soulmate. And it may be for a lifetime, it may be for a very short time. And the same is also true as far as longevity with soulmates, soul families, that sometimes a soulmate is, you've made your plan, you're like, okay, we're going to do this, let's go, we're down here in real, 3D life, and you come together And what sometimes happens is what you believed was to be a lifetime, the job is done, the lessons learned, the changes made, and then that relationship will dissolve or will shift to it not being so intense. Or you may even just go out of each other's lives. So when a relationship ends, you might grieve it, but look at what you got out of it. What changed? What did you learn? What are you still learning maybe? Or maybe by the relationship ending, maybe that was the lesson of how to deal with that. So these lessons and experiences, they come in all sorts of forms. And when someone's your soulmate, that doesn't mean they're there for a lifetime. It means they're there for the right time. And that's what it is. So, for example, one of the things I find useful with this philosophy or this knowledge is when someone dies young, or when someone, marriage breaks up, or these things that we just kind of don't quite understand, or someone has a horrible injury, and we aren't understanding what was this about. The lesson, the reason, the pre-planned soul contract is in existence. And the answers may not come easily or readily. But if we take time to even meditate on it, to review it, to look at what possibly were the benefits of what you might term negative. How, if you could picture it on your soul level, how as a soul can that help you rise up to be a better human being, which translates then into a better energetic being? What came from it? A young life gone is just a trajectory to that person was here, that was their contract, and their contract was done for whatever reason. And sometimes it might be to bring awareness to a cause, to unite people, or show people how to deal with things on their own. Everything's a challenge. Or, like I say, that if there's a challenge, not everything's a challenge, but if there's a challenge, take time to say, imagine your soul being, imagine your soul up there before coming down here, and it's not really up there or down here, but in energetic form, imagine what the plan was. Look around you and think, what am I learning? What do I need to learn? What's going on with these people in my life? Is there someone who really just pushes my buttons and challenges me? And how can I learn to respond in the way that my soul being would want me to? How would this benefit me? And encourage yourself to find the way to change your internal reaction and response rather than allowing the external to control your reaction and response, because ultimately we are internal, we are our own personal energy. And the way to work through that is to bring it to a more positive state. And that can be done in our 3D world through positive emotion, positive thoughts, regardless of what's happening around you. If you work and you find it much more natural to be in a positive state, then your soul's energy also rises to a more positive state. So that's a little bit of a lecture on how to deal with that, and maybe why bad things happen to good people, why a relationship might come and then go, why your sister drives you crazy, or your brother, or you have a bad relationship with your parents, or maybe why your mom abandoned you, or all sorts of relationships out there for you to actually learn from and to rise above. And Anyway, that's what soul, twin flames and soul contracts are. Soul families are the ones who come back with you over and over. And sometimes there's also said that every now and then a soul incarnates without their soul family, without any other soul family around. And these individuals often feel very alone. They don't know what it is, but they have this sense that something's missing. And this might ring true for some of you listening, that sense that something's missing, and they always seem to be looking for that person or that right place, that right person to feel at home, and they don't quite feel right because they don't have their soul family around. This has often also been said to happen if someone has incarnated in a different planet or a different realm, and it is their first time around on, say, Earth or someplace else, and they feel out of place. Sometimes these people are called star seeds or star children, and there's a sense of being displaced. Just like you would if you woke up someplace that you'd never seen and you didn't know what was going on. There's sort of a soul feeling to that for these people. And so that's some other ways that you might be experiencing your soulness. The ones who happen to incarnate without their soul family, their plan may have been independence. Their plan may have been to learn self-reliance without the support of others because they don't have that soul connection. And overcoming that and still thriving as a spiritual being might be that lesson. And ultimately, we may never find out, with the idea of going back into the spirit world under hypnosis or after death. These questions have a likelier chance of being answered. In the spiritual regression hypnosis, you have a chance to ask these questions while you're under, which is certainly easier than dying. And it's just fascinating to have these answers, to have that window into that unseen world that we all inhabit, but not all of us recognize and take time to consider. So for you, I'd like you to consider that. I think you might find some interesting information coming back. Take some time to write down what would your soul be telling you about what's going on in your life today and the people around you. Thank you for joining me on Intuitive Journey with Desiree, and I will see you next time. Have a soul-filled day. Bye.